Hello everyone, this is Doe, welcoming you back to another sort of Convallaria video. The other day I mentioned my plan to build an aggression team centered around Samantha Everglow, so today I thought we'd sit down and theory craft what that team might look like and where it could shine in the future. Without further ado, let's jump right in. First things first, Samantha Everglow is a watcher from the Papal and Aggression factions. She brings with her the game's strongest aggression leader, Aura, will to cleanse all foul. This aura gives all aggression units a solid 10% boost to attack, 20% to defense, plus an additional 10% skill damage and a hefty 20% AoE damage bonus. Her core mechanic revolves around Judgment Brand. Enemies marked with this brand take extra damage and extra AoE damage, and whenever Samantha attacks a branded enemy, her critical rate shoots up by 50%. At the start of battle, she also activates Radiant Watch, which dispels one debuff from all allies within 5 tiles of her. On top of that, every time her teammates attack, those enemies get branded automatically. And here's where things get nasty. At the end of each turn, all enemies marked with Judgment Brand take AoE damage equal to 30% of Samantha's magic attack. Finally, as long as she has Radiant Watch active, the damage on all of her skills are increased by 100%, which pushes her damage ceiling even higher. Samantha also comes with some of the strongest wide area AoE skills in the game. The first is Judgment Sanctum, an instant skill that dispels 2 buffs from all enemies within a 5-tile radius. On top of that, it sets up a forced alert in that entire area, dealing 50% magic AoE damage while interrupting their action for that turn. This is both a powerful defensive tool and a way to immediately flip the momentum in your favor. Now, when you pair that with Oath to End All Evil, things get downright nasty. This skill deals 220% area of effect magical damage to every enemy within 5 tiles, and for every enemy hit, its skill damage multiplier goes up by 30%, stacking up to 100%. To make it even better, it also dispels 3 buffs from those enemies. The catch here is that both of these skills have a 3-turn cooldown, and that's where her number 1 support unit comes in, Credenza. Credenza is also a watcher from the Papal and Aggression factions, and her entire unit design revolves around being the martyr for her team, constantly sacrificing her HP to support her allies. Her trait, Divine Radiance, enhances several of her skills. Whenever she performs standby, she sacrifices 20% of her HP to gain Divine Revelation at the start of the next turn. Each time she sacrifices 10% of her HP or takes damage, a counter builds, and once it reaches 12, she unlocks Hierophany, a powerful skill that can only be used once per battle. Hierophany takes 1 turn to prepare, and when activated, it dispels all debuffs from allies within 5 tiles, fully restores their HP, and grants every level 2 buff for 2 turns. While preparing, she immediately casts a weaker version of the skill, half the healing and buff duration, and gains prey for Divine Revelation until the start of her next turn. If she already has Divine Revelation active, Hierophany becomes even stronger. It restores 2 energy to allies, reduces their skill cooldowns by 1, and grants Radiant Grace, a unique buff that increases attack and damage by 15%. Speaking of cooldowns, one of Credenza's most important contributions is Radiant Blessing, which reduces an ally's cooldowns by 2 turns. This has incredible synergy with Samantha Everglow, since her core AoE skills both have 3-turn cooldowns. In longer fights, you can even extend Hierophany to be used twice per battle by equipping Hierophany's Return. For survivability, she brings Radiant Barrier, a reaction skill that reduces incoming single target damage by 15% at the cost of 10% of her own HP. This can trigger twice per round, and if Credenza is already injured, her damage taken is reduced by 30% instead. On top of that, her passive Trial of Radiance immediately grants her Divine Revelation at the start of her turn whenever she's injured, making sure her kit keeps cycling. Finally, there's Hymn of Absolution. This is an AoE healing skill where she sacrifices 30% of her HP to heal all allies within 3 tiles of the target for 60% of her magic attack, while also granting them Attack 2 and Damage 2 buffs. If she has Divine Revelation active, she adds Radiant Grace to the mix as well, pushing her team's offensive output even higher. Now that we've gone over Samantha Everglow and Credenza's overall roles in battle, it's time to expand the lineup. When it comes to other magic-based aggression units, one standout teammate I think would work fantastically in this composition is Marcille. Marcille is a destroyer from the Drifter and Aggression factions, and she'll be the very first gacha unit featured in the upcoming Delicious in Dungeon collab. She's often described as a plug-and-go DPS because her attacks don't require much setup to start dealing solid damage right out of the gate. Her trait boosts both her magic attack and HP, and her mana-based mechanics allow her to deal more damage the higher her energy points climb. I see her role in this team as an all-rounder. Thanks to her core passive mana recovery, whenever she reaches 2 stacks of mana, she restores 1 energy, heals allies within 3 tiles, and grants them attack too. Marcille also has some utility baked in. On larger maps, she can help with mobility using Short Route, an AoE support skill that grants movement buffs while also providing immunity to burning and frosty tiles. Offensively, one of her standout skills is Incantation. She selects a tile, prepares for 1 turn, suppresses enemy movement by 1, and applies Vulnerable 2 before unleashing a wide AoE attack for 140% magic damage. Alternatively, she can fire off Powerful Explosion, a flexible AoE that deals 100% magic damage, dispels 3 buffs, and scales its radius between 3 and 4 tiles depending on her mana stacks. Now, one weakness you may have noticed is that this team leans heavily on preventing enemies from reaching your backline before the big skills and energy cycles are ready. To manage that, you could employ an energy battery like Tyre to accelerate skill rotations, or bring in terrain controllers like Luvata to slow enemies down. Another option, and one that synergizes beautifully with Samantha's Judgment brand, is our newest global unit, Rico. Rico is a defender from the Drifter and Aggression factions, and she's one of the big reasons I think this aggression team can actually work in practice. Her main value lies in being the sole frontline unit capable of holding off hordes of enemies while the rest of the team sets up and recovers energy. Her survivability comes from her trait, which automatically heals her HP whenever she's injured, and her support skill Milk Power Boost adds even more sustain, letting her anchor the front line effectively. With Rico soaking up damage, Marcille and Luvata can safely sit on the midline to provide control and AoE support, while Samantha and Credenza prepare their rotations. On top of that, Rico shines as a knockback specialist. She can consistently push back and delay advancing enemies, buying time for Marcille to suppress movement and for Luvata to spread burning tiles across their approach. In stages where enemies are immune to knockback, she still contributes thanks to her core passive Crackling Sparks, which boosts her attack by 15% while inflicting both physical defense down 2 and magical defense down 2 on enemies, greatly amplifying the team's overall damage output. Since Rico benefits from Samantha's leader aura, you can switch her aura to Milk Power Boost to further strengthen her survivability. And if you have access to Dragon Hammer, you can go for the Try to Make Me Mad counter build. Dragon Hammer pairs beautifully here, granting her lifesteal on strikebacks, which makes her even harder to bring down. To summarize, this aggression team is built around Samantha Everglow's powerful leader aura and her Judgment brand mechanics. Marcille and Luvata hold the midline, providing support and pressure from range, while Rico anchors the front line, managing incoming waves of enemies, especially since Samantha's Forced Alert only affects 3 targets per round. In larger 6-unit battles, slotting in SP Inanna with her support build and Nocturnal Glow can push the team's overall damage output even further. This setup really shines on medium to large maps where there's a steady flow of enemies to control and punish. Now, while Rico's knockback capacity is a huge asset, it can be undermined by stages where enemies are immune. Thankfully, her passive Crackling Sparks makes up for it by applying both physical and magical defense down 2, ensuring the team's damage output stays strong. The main weakness of this comp is that it leans heavily on magic damage. Against enemies with magical damage reduction mutations, this team's effectiveness drops significantly, so you'll want to be mindful of where you deploy it. And that wraps up this aggression team theorycraft built around Samantha Everglow. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget this is a sponsored video. Downloading the game through the link in the description really helps support the channel and keeps more content coming your way. Also, keep an eye out because I'll be covering other meta team compositions in future videos. So if you're interested in theory crafting and building around different cores, you'll definitely want to stick around. As always, stay cool, stay crispy. This is Doe signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.